Welcome into the In the Money podcast for Saturday, February 16th. Tom Leach, along with Jim Goodman, Keeneland's Director of Wagering Development. We go to the fairgrounds for our podcast. 4 graded stakes in our late pick 4 that we're going to handicap for you. And we will start off in the 9th. It's the Mine Shaft, grade 3 for 4-year-olds and up, going a mile and a 16th. Got some names from the Derby Trail last year, Triple Crown Trail, I guess, with Flame Away and Lone Sailor and Quip that are in here. Who do you like in the Mine Shaft, Jim?
Well, you mentioned Quip. I did hear recently that Quip is going to scratch out of the 13 hole. They didn't like the draw. I don't know if that's official or not, but when I handicapped it, that's what I assumed. I wasn't going to use him anyway off a layoff since he hadn't run since Preakness. So I don't like a horse trying to get ready for a graded stakes off what is that, a 9-month layoff. So I didn't even consider Quip in here. I went with Lone Sailor, and I basically went back to the Derby Trail plus the Breeders' Cup Classic, and I just think this horse has faced much better than the other horses in here. I mean, grade 1 tested, finished second in the Ohio Derby, won the Oklahoma Derby at grade 3, and I was only five lengths out off of Accelerate at 90-1 in the Breeders' Cup Classic. So took a big step forward there. They left him off since November, and he's ready to come back with a great work on February 9th. So I'm going to take him on top here. Also going to use Harlan Punch out of the prep race for this, the Louisiana Little Stakes race on January 19th. The 2 horses that came out of there, Silver Dust and Harlan Punch, no difference in those 2. Whichever one gets the better trip could get in the money here. And then I'm also going to take Flame Away based on back class. This horse also has been off since the Smarty Jones at Parks in August of last year, so I don't like that long layoff either. But I can use the ones coming out of the prep race, but I think Lone Sailor's back class gets it down the stretch. Nice race to kick off the pick 4.
It is. I was between Flame Away and Lone Sailor, and I ended up going with Flame Away because of the speed factor. This horse, Lone Sailor, comes from way out of it. So I took Flame Away off that angle. Mark Cassie's 20% off the layoff, winning at a 25% clip at this meet down in New Orleans. So I think this horse can be ready off the layoff. So I'm going to give him the slight edge over Lone Sailor in the race. Others for me were Harlan Punch and Silver Dust. And I did throw Quip on my ticket as well. But so I'll leave him on there for the purposes of our pick 4. But that may cut the pick 4 ticket down if he does indeed scratch. But I'm going to go with Flame Away in here with a slight edge over Lone Sailor. The 10th is on the turf at a mile, or about a mile and an eighth, they say. It's the Fairgrounds handicap. And I went for Synchrony here. This was a little bit of a close call, too, between this one and First Premio and Great Wide Open and Big Changes. I could see any 4 of those winning, but Synchrony's 3 for 3 at the Fairgrounds, 2 wins at this distance. I like Joe Bravo coming in to keep the mount on this horse. And the sharp work on February 10th kind of clinched it. A long series of works finishing off with a really sharp one in the final prep for this race. So horse loves the track. Synchrony for me, and then I'll use those other 3 in Exactas keying around Synchrony, and I'll use all 4 of them in the pick 4. How about you?
We are exactly on the same page here. I think the horse is 3 for 3 at the track with Michael Stidham. Joe Bravo won 4 races on this horse in 2018, and this horse won this race last year with a great run, 102 buyer off it hadn't been out since May of 2017. So the horse had been out 9 months, came back and won this, and followed it up with the Muniz, the March Stakes race down there, the grade 2 for turf horses. So I think Synchrony is a good bet here. I also like the ones you mentioned, Big Changes for Cox and Giroux, Great Wide Open, who's also got 3 wins at Fairgrounds, but probably needs the lead. First Premio won the Colonel Bradley on January 19th. The other one that I would throw in there, Combatant. Combatant is probably better on the dirt, but Asmussen and Ortiz coming back to ride this horse after they tried it on the turf at Santa Anita, and the horse almost won the race at 14-1, ran behind River Boyne. So I think they found something here in this horse. He was on the Derby Trail last year, ran okay in the Oaklawn preps, but then flopped in the Kentucky Derby. So they found a turf home for him now. So I think Combatant has a chance at a price here, but I would take Synchrony on top of those other 4 horses. I'm going to go 5 deep when we get to Big 4.
10th race is the 11th race, the Rachel Alexandra. This is for 3-year-old fillies, a mile and a 16th, grade 2. Prep for the Fairgrounds Oaks and obviously the Kentucky Oaks as well. You got a Baffert shipper in here that looks pretty salty. Who'd you go with?
Well, your Baffert. It just came out this morning that she's not shipping. She's going to stay on the West Coast.
Ah.
So Chasing Yesterday is out. She is. They didn't like the post position and didn't want to ship her. So that was in the racing form as we're recording this. It was this morning on Thursday morning. So Chasing Yesterday would have been my choice in here off those races on the West Coast. I mean, she had a three race win streak, but according to racing form, she's not going to be there. So I think it turns into a wide open race if she's out. This race has gotten some really good horses. Monomoy Girl ran this race a couple years ago, so or last year, actually last year, wasn't it? So I don't know if we're going to find the next Monomoy Girl, but it's very competitive. I went with Serengeti Empress. She was incredible last year at Churchill and Ellis, and then in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, got to the lead, close to the lead, and then just packed it in. Don't know what happened there, but she was impressive, and I think Amos gets her ready for this off the layoff, and her back class may tell the story here. But I can't use her alone. I'm going to use Oxy Lady the 6 for Jack Sisterson, not a big trainer, but this horse had a 94 buyer at Aqueduct last year before trying Chasing Yesterday in the Starlet. So they shipped her from Aqueduct to Los Alamitos, and she didn't run badly. Only got to be 2 3/4 lengths. So I think she's a contender. Needs supervision. Won the Silver Bullet Day. That number came back low with a 76. Positive Spirit, the 4, won the Demoiselle at Aqueduct, and Brissett is a nice up-and-coming trainer with Manny Fracon coming in to ride. And I'm going to give Leora another chance. I think the Silver Bullet Day, she hit the gate and just was never into her game, and she looked so good winning the Goldenrod at Churchill. I'm going to give Leora another chance at 12-1. So going to wind up taking Serengeti Empress, but going deep when we get to the Big 4.
I'm going to go to Positive Spirit. I was going to lean heavily on Chasing Yesterday, but with her out, Positive Spirit really ran well in that stakes debut off the maiden win at Churchill for Brissett. So I'm going to take that filly to come back and build in what she did late last year. There are a couple of price horses that I think are real interesting in here. Bell's the One looked like a good one last fall for Neil Pessin. Molta Bella coming off on a really nice effort last time for Ian Wilkes. I think both of those two could run big in here at a little bit of a price. Needs Supervision I'm going to go with as well. I'm going to lean against Serengeti Empress for the win pick in here. We'll include it on the pick 4, mainly out of respect for Tom Amos, especially down there. But I did see a story recently with Amos where he said this horse and another one that he's got in the Risen Star, I think it's kind of a step towards something bigger. No, it was actually Lone Sailor. I think he was talking about both of them. Maybe just this is the first step towards something bigger. So just a little leery of her being fully cranked up. But I will use her when we get to the pick 4. So that gets us to the Grade 2 Risen Star for 3-year-olds at a mile and a 16th. I think War of Will is definitely the one to beat, but in the 14 hole. It's an awful post position. So I'm going to try to beat War of Will. With Henley's Joy is who I ended up on. Kitten's Joy is the sire, so this horse should handle dirt fine. Been first or second in all but one start. I like that Manny Franco sees fit to come in and take the mount on this horse. So I think this horse could run well at a nice price. Pluska Parfait down on the inside I think could run big with a much better draw than War of Will. Chase the Ghost I think is a long shot to watch for Dallas Stewart. Had some trouble last time out, and the previous race was a buyer top in the first time going 2 turns and has run well at the fairgrounds. So I think that one bears watching as a price. So I'm going to use all 4 of those in my pick 4, but I'm going to take Henley's Joy for the upset. How about you?
Well, I think if War of Will had drawn to 3 or 4 posts, he'd be 1-2 in here.
Agree.
I think this crew is suspect, except for him. And I thought the LeCompte was his coming out party, and I just think Cassie has him going in the right direction at the right time, and I'm gonna take him to overcome the 14 hole. I hate to single a horse in the 14, but if you notice, I'm going deep in the other 3, and I'm kind of running out of money. But I really couldn't find anything else in here that I liked better, even given the 14 hole. It's going to cost him 2 or 3 lengths, but he doesn't have to have the lead. I think that Gaffalione can get him out of there. There's not a whole lot of speed to his immediate inside. None of the horses down all the way down to the 8 horse Owendale, none of those are going to show any speed. So I think he can get to that first turn and get in position where he's maybe 4th or 5th. And I think if he does that and doesn't have to expend too much, I think he can run the leaders down. I just really like War of Will a lot. I think he's Derby potential, and I didn't really see anything else in here that I thought was. Owendale was a horse that you didn't mention for Brad Cox that has gotten a lot better. I like the buyer progression. He didn't run very well at Churchill last year, but he's come back at Fairgrounds and backed an 83 and a 91. If he moves forward off those numbers, he's right there with War of Will. In the mid-90s is going to win this race, if not a little bit under that. So I really didn't like anything else. I think Le Peroux's horse that you mentioned, the 1 horse, has a chance to run better than he did in the LeCompte plus Q Parfait. He did stumble at the start, and so he had a rough trip, and he was 4-1 that day. So I could give him a shot, and there's no way at 10-1 I might bet him if he stays at 10-1. Because I do really think the rest of the field, Henley's Joy has a lot of back class. I'm just not sure about turf to dirt. You think the Kitten's Joy would run okay on dirt, but this is a kind of a tough spot to find out. I would rather have seen him go to an allowance race or something, or a listed stakes or something, rather than trying to get in a grade 2 right off the bat. But he's a local horse down there. There's some New Orleans owners there in Bloom Racing Stable. A couple of people that are from New Orleans are in partners there because they were at Keeneland when he almost won the Bourbon. So, interesting race. War of Will is my pick here.
All right, let's get to our pick 4 tickets. Mine, because of Chasing Yesterday going out, I'm going to have to go deeper in the Rachel Alexandra, so I've got to cut back somewhere to make this ticket affordable. So I'm just going to focus on Flame Away and Lone Sailor in the first leg and go with those 2 4-year-olds. Then I'm going to use the 4 I mentioned in the Fairgrounds Handicap. Going to go 5 deep in the Rachel Alexandra, the 1, 3, 4, 7, and 9. It's Positive Spirit, Boltabella, Bell's the 1, Needs Supervision, and Serengeti Empress. And then the 4 I mentioned in the Risen Star, 1, 4, 5, and 14. Within the Risen Star, I think one thing you could do is if you can find a couple of price horses you do like I have, what I'm going to do is probably box those all in single and really key War of Will first and second. And if you could get him second, you get a much nicer payoff. So I think it's going to be probably hard to keep him out of the top 2, but I think he might be vulnerable from that outside post. But you're right, boy, he looked good last time, and looks like the going in at least the certainly the best Derby prospect. What about your pick 4?
Okay, I'll go. I've got 4 deep in the first leg, 2, 4, 5, 9 with Harlan Punch, Silver Dust, Lone Sailor, and Flame Away. Then the 5 horses that I talked about in the second leg, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. With the 5 horses in the Rachel Alexandra, the 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, and single the 14. That's $50. If you want to spend $100, you might look at the 1 horse or the 8 horse in the last leg if you don't like the 14. But I'm going to take a stand there. I do think I'll be alive to the 14, so I'll be pulling for War of Will to get a good trip. And
my ticket, I think, is $80 for 50 cents. I couldn't get any cheaper than that because of not having a strong enough opinion in those races. Some tough fields, and you could be well rewarded if you're right on Saturday at the fairgrounds. Best of luck, and we'll be back next week for another edition of the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com.